Hi, everyone. I'm Marco DiGeorge. I'm the co founder and instructor at Truthful Acting Studios. We're an acting conservatory located in Orlando, Florida. And today I wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about the world of auditioning. So we spend, many of these sessions we talk about more of acting in general and what it takes to be an actor and some of the nuances of being an actor. But the world of auditioning, this is what I consider the gateway into the acting world. Because as an actor, really any project that we want to work on, we have to go through something called an audition process in order to get there. So let's start off by talking a little bit about the world of auditioning and some audition basics. And the first thing I really want to kind of talk about is what is an audition? Because I think there's a lot of assumptions to what auditions are or what they're for. But essentially, I really want to break down specifically what is the purpose of an audition? Why do we do them? Why does an actor need to be put through that process? And so, first and foremost, an audition is a way for projects, whether it's theater, film, television, they're a way for projects to evaluate talent, meaning actors, to see if you're a right fit for the project. So, if I'm making a film, and I have certain characters that I need for that film, it's a very difficult creative step to try to figure out, okay, who do I cast in the different roles? And sometimes even if I have actors in mind, I still don't really know if they're going to be right for this particular role until I put them through an audition process. And so the audition process is to bring actors in and allow you to perform a small piece of something. So then I can, as a director, as a casting director, as a producer, I can evaluate a little bit better, a little bit more formally, whether it's a right fit. And so this is kind of, this is why we audition. Um, but I want to break it down a little bit further and saying, okay, well, let's still, what is an audition beyond just the fact that it's an evaluation? Well, first of all, I want to say that auditioning as an actor is something that you can learn. It's a learnable skill. Just like, just about everything, all the other different aspects and parts of acting, it's learnable. Auditioning is something that you can study and you can practice, and there are different techniques and different tools that we do. So it is a learnable thing. So that's the good news. Is every aspect of all the auditions you can study and you can learn. But beyond just the audition itself, which I'll get into in a few minutes, um, auditioning is also about relationships. And what I mean by that is if I'm casting a theater production, for example. Now I know once we put all of the pieces together for this theater show, this play, that whoever I cast as the director, we're going to spend a lot of time together. We're going to have to spend a lot of time through rehearsal and a lot of time through putting the show together and talking about the show and rehearsing the show and there's an exhausting amount of time that goes into that. If we're doing a film, it's the same thing. We're going to have to go through rehearsal. We're going to have to go through the entire shoot of the film, and we spend a lot of time together. So it's about relationships. Part of the casting process is not only looking to see if you can play the part, but it's looking to see if you and I, meaning the director and the actor, can work together. Do we have a collaborative relationship? Do we have a positive relationship? Do we gel as two people working together on the same project? That's a big part of the evaluation process, that relationship together. In addition, it's also about the relationship between other actors. Not saying you have to have an established relationship coming in, but what I mean is, as we're looking at, let's say we have, two leading actors that are going to be paired together. It's a romantic comedy that we're doing, and so we have the two love interests that are going to be working together. So part of that casting process is saying, what's the relationship between these two actors? In the sense of, do they get along just in the small amount of time that we see them or we pair them up in the casting process? Do we feel that they work well together? Do they feel they have chemistry, a working chemistry, that they'll be able to collaborate creatively on this project? And do they both have a good working relationship with the director? And so those relationships are very important in the overall process. The audition process is a very normal one. As I said, right away, is it's the gateway into all of the productions that we do. So it's something that, as an actor, every audition is a way for us to get practice at what we do. We get better at auditioning, not only by studying it, that's the classroom side of it, but we get better at auditioning by auditioning. And I mean, as an actor, we have to go on audition after audition after audition. I mean, it's an exhausting process as we go through it. And it's only in, sometimes as actors, we have to go on hundreds of auditions before we become proficient at it. So it's just something that we do. I remember being told one time, a long time ago as an actor, that as an actor, what you do is audition. That's your job. Your job is to audition. And then every now and then you take time off from auditioning to do a show or to do a film or to do a play. We actually work on something. But otherwise, the job of an actor is to audition as much as possible. Uh, so the biggest goal that I try to look at when I work with actors in auditioning, my biggest obstacle that I want to overcome is that it's not so much of a chore or an anxious event for you to do. But the goal is, I want auditioning to be fun. I want it to be something that you enjoy doing. Because if it is true, right? If what I was told was true, which I found it to be true, that what we do as actors is audition. That's really our main job. Then why not make that part of what we do as enjoyable and as fun as possible? And the way we do that is by changing our mindset, not looking at an audition as something that we're either going to gain or lose, which is what most actors do. They look at it like a job interview. And you go and you're either going to gain the job or you're going to lose it to to someone else. So it's not a matter of that, um, but rather it's a chance for you to perform right here and right now. That's a different way of seeing it, because if I say, okay, the audition is not something I'm going to gain or lose, but the audition itself is the performance. Well, that's interesting. So if the audition is the performance, I am already winning. I'm already gaining it. So this right now, right here, I get a chance to perform for these 2 minutes that I have this audience in this room. For this 1 minute that I'm performing this monologue on stage, whatever the case may be, I get to perform for this audience. And so when you look at it as a performance and you put everything into an audition as if it were the ending performance, you feel that your perception changes and you feel much better about it. You can feel more joyful about it. And every time you audition, you get to perform. And that's what we want to do as actors. And then every now and then, they'll call us back to perform it again, or maybe to expand on it and do some more. And then that way, we're constantly in that state of performing. And I really I love that concept, and it really helps by changing that mindset that it's some sort of anxious event. So there are different types of auditions. And what I mean is that, there's not like by saying an audition, it's not just one thing. Because first of all, there's different mediums. We have film, and then we have television, theater, commercials. Sometimes we audition for agents or producers, right? So we have different types and mediums of auditions that we have to do. And so, as we're studying acting and we're studying auditioning, it's important to learn those different types. So, for example, for film, we use something called a cold read. Now, a cold read is when you show up to the audition. Let's say you have a 2 p.m. audition time, call time. And so you show up 15 minutes early, and at that time they hand you the material. It's called a side, SIDE. It's the small piece of material that they hand you. It could be a small scene or some small dialogue, and they hand it to you. And you have about 10 to 15 minutes to review that material before you go into the room and audition with it. And it's a cold read because we're not memorizing it. It's right here on the page for us. We're using the page to conduct the audition. We're reading off the page, and we're doing it cold, meaning we don't have a lot of time to warm this thing up. We have to make very, very quick choices. And that's the intention of it. The intention of a cold read for a film and television audition is to say, I want to see what the actor can do with a very small amount of time to prepare. That's really the goal of that. And I want to see what choices the actor is going to make, what relationships they're going to choose, how important they make the material, what they do with the words, so forth. I want to see what they're able to do with this. And so it's an evaluation tool on how quickly the actor can work. Now, cold reads are typically used, as I said, for film and television. That's usually the standard. Sometimes they're also used for theater as well. But the standard is for film and television. Where for theater, our standard audition type is a monologue. Now, a monologue is a short piece of material, but it's only one-sided. It's a monologue, right? Mono one means I'm the only one speaking, right? The actor. It's not a dialogue. It's not going back and forth. So with a monologue, they're usually about a minute to a minute and a half at the most. They're very small. I stand on stage and then I perform this thing. I speak these words. And it's different on stage than it is on film and television. On film and television, we need to see the back and forth. We need to see the dialogue. We have to understand how the actor can deal with that. But on stage, we're evaluating something completely different. We're evaluating stage presence. We're evaluating voice. We're evaluating believability with the words. So there's different things that we do, so we allow monologues for that. Now, monologues are also a great way for actors to just work on your craft. They're things that you can prepare on your own, and it's a way to also showcase for others things that you can do. And the nice thing about a monologue is it doesn't require another person or another partner. So it's always something that you can do on your own. And then outside of those two main types, then there's also self-tape auditions. Self-tape we still use this term self-tape, even though we haven't used tape in some time. But a self-tape audition is one where there's an audition for something happening in, out of town, let's say. It's a film shooting up, in Georgia. And they're putting out a casting for actors that are needed. And they're saying that if you want to submit, instead of showing up in person, you can actually record the audition yourself and then electronically send it, and they'll watch your audition remotely. And then if they want to see more of you, they will then ask you to come to the studio to then do a callback. But this is becoming very popular because with technology, digital media, it's so readily available for us to be able to do our own auditions as actors, it's become much easier for casting directors and producers and studios to be able to watch digitally submitted auditions. So this is something that actors need to learn how to do to be able to set up in your own environment. Meaning to be able to record on your own an audition, understand how to format it properly, and then send those files in. And I'll talk about that a little bit more a little bit later. And then something that really has sprung up recently is something called the virtual audition or the online audition. And what that means is you can connect in with a face-to-face online platform. You can connect in with a casting director or a director, and they'll conduct the audition live, but online. And this also is a great way if a casting is offering this, instead of going to the studio or to the casting office, you're able to just right from the comfort of your home connect in like I'm doing now, and I can conduct the audition. And they might use a platform like Skype or Zoom or Teams, Facebook meetings. I mean, who knows? It's but one of those face-to-face platforms. And this is something that has become very popular. And because for the initial evaluation, it allows casting agents to see more people. It allows them to have fewer logistics, meaning not worrying about setting up a casting room, not worrying about bringing people in and out, not worrying about having actors travel to the location. Everything is done remotely. So this is another thing that actors need to learn how to do, is to be efficient in this format right here. So we have the biggest thing to take away from this is that there's an initial audition. It's going to be a cold read, it's going to be a monologue, but there's an initial audition that you go through that only takes a few minutes. Maybe, when I run an audition process, I have actors in the room for about 4 minutes per audition. It's very, very fast. And it's a very fast process, as I'm seeing many actors, to then decide who I feel is right for the project or who could be right for the project. And then what I do is I take those actors and I bring them into a callback. A callback is just that. I want to call them back and to spend more time with these actors. Now, I'm going to call back actors that I think are going to be right for the project or have the potential to fit the project, and also who have met certain criteria for the project. And so in a callback, while the first audition I might only spend 4 minutes with an actor, in a callback I may spend 30 to 40 minutes with an actor. That's where I'm really going to spend my time going through the material and working with the actor one-on-one. I may even pair actors together that I'm considering casting, and I want to see their chemistry. I might pair multiple actors together because I want to be able to evaluate, multiple chemistry sets, and just to see what's happening. So it's really a great way to jump into it and look at that further. So that's something that's important to understand. As actors, yes, we have the first audition that we have to get through, but then there's also then the callback. If it's a larger project, if it's a studio film or something that is higher budget, they might have a second callback or a third callback or even a fourth callback, because there's quite a bit of money at stake. There's quite a bit at risk. So they need to make sure through all of the different stages that everything matches, that you, the actor, match up with the production, that the director can work with the act, that there's chemistry, that the actors work well together. There's a lot of testing involved before they put it all together. So as actors, we have to understand this as well, that it's this is why I say it's our job to audition, because there's so much of it that we actually do before we ever land a role in something. And then, every now and then we land the role in something, and then we do that. So let's take a look at what are casting directors looking for? Now, I say casting directors because much of the time, a production will hire a casting director. It's a person that is specifically trained to evaluate initial talent as they come in, and then pass that talent on to the director or the producers of a project. So these casting directors. Now, depending on the type of project you're doing, the actual director may be part of the casting process. A producer might be part of the casting process. It really depends on how it's being conducted. But typically, professionally, for the first audition, it's going to be a casting director that is going to be doing that initial evaluation and then sending who they think needs to move on to the director and the producers. So, what are casting directors, and including directors? What is that production looking for from you, the actor? So, there's several items that are on this list. Uh, Beyond just what I'll say is general skill, meaning you working on your craft, and because there is, and this is almost like the obvious one. The first thing we look for, we want to make sure that you're working on your craft. We want to make sure that you're taking classes. We want to make sure that you understand what acting is. But beyond that, there are a few other things. And for example, the first one is imagination. We want to see imagination from the actor in the audition room. Imagination, what I mean by that is the ability to create the environment around them. When you walk into a casting room, I like to look at an audition as a very small version of the actual thing. For example, if a film audition is a very small version, it's like the microcosm version of an actual film set. So as an actor, we walk in, we stand on a certain place. It's called our mark. We stand on our mark. There's a camera recording us. We're given an eye line of where to look, usually with another actor or a reader, they'll call it. There's people observing us. But very similar things are happening on set. If I'm on a set and I'm being filmed, I'm standing at a very specific mark. There's a camera recording me. I have an eye line of where to look, where my scene partner is. And there's people observing me, meaning the crew. So an audition is really a very small version. It's a sample set of the actual thing. So, but on set, when I'm actually shooting a film, I have different things. I have wardrobe that I'm wearing. I have maybe the environment that we're in. There's a little bit more that I have that helps me immerse into the life of this character. But in an audition, we're in a room, a classroom or a studio room. I mean, we walk in and it's typically an empty room that we're in. There's not much around us. And so as we're sitting there, we, the actor, need to imagine where we're actually at. Is this taking place in a cafe? Is it taking place in an office? Is it taking place in a hospital? Where is it taking place? So I have to use my imagination to create that environment around me and to live in this moment. I need to use my imagination to create the relationship I have with the person that I'm reading with, and really immerse that life. So that's something that we look for, is how imaginative is the actor, their ability to step in and do that. The next thing we look for is truth. Truth meaning that the work is authentic and comes from true personal meaning. So in any scene as an actor, and I talk about this in some of my other sessions, but really as an actor, our job is to step in to the truthful point of view of the character. Meaning, whoever this character is, it's really us just inhabiting a truthful point of view, a different point of view. So our job is to really understand what that point of view is and then fight for that point of view. And the fight is emotional. We have to feel our way through it. It must be authentically important to us. And in turn, we will truthfully speak. We'll really talk. And then in turn, really listen to what is being said to us. And it's a back and forth exchange. So we're looking for that truth in the audition room. And this is very difficult because you're walking in, you don't know the people around you. You just received the material. You have to walk in, stand on a very specific mark. They're putting you through this very quickly. And so the anxiety is high. And so right away you have to jump into that truth. But that's something we look for because trained actors can do that. They can make the performance believable in the moment by just walking in the room, connecting with their partner, really saying these words, really fighting for something. Now, with that, I have a partner. It's called a reader. It's called a reader because it's typically somebody reading back the other side of the scene. And that's who I'm connecting in with. So now that connection, I want to see that there is a back and forth exchange happening. And what I mean by that is it's not that I say my line, you say your line. That's very robotic. What I mean is that I'm really going to say these words to my partner. I want them to take it in and they're really going to respond back with something else. Well, I have to really take that in and then really respond back with my thing. There's a truthful back and forth exchange. We call that working off of each other, where there's an action reaction back and forth. Again, this is something that we train on how to do as an actor, how to step into a moment and then work off of our partner of what's happening. But that's a very vital piece of acting. So in the audition process, we need to make sure that the actor understands how to do that. A couple other things, we look for specificity. Specificity means the ability to make the text and what's happening in the scene important, meaningful, making specific choices about who this person is, the relationship, what you're fighting for in the scene. Those are all things that, as an actor, we make up because the scene doesn't necessarily give it to us. We have to create that. So I look for those specific choices. I look for energy. Energy, the best way I have to describe energy is oomph. There's an oomph to it, meaning that that specific importance will give it energy. It's in the fight. It's in the action. It's whatever we're doing, we have to do it fully and specifically. Well, it creates energy. It creates a need. It creates urgency. And so I look for that energy. The opposite of energy would be to make it relaxed or to make it calm or to make it unimportant, casual. In all of our scenes, our scene work is not casual. It's extremely important in every moment. So I look to see if the actor understands that. And then I also look for courage or the ability for the actor to take vulnerable risks. Now, just standing in an audition room already is a risk. So, kudos to all actors. Just going to an audition, standing in the room and going through the process, that's a risk. And you need to feel proud just putting yourself through that process because so many people would never, ever do the things that actors do. But beyond even going there, now I want to see, does the actor have the ability to lean into the vulnerable parts of the scene, or are they keeping themselves safe and pulling themselves back? And so I look for that because let's say I have a very dramatic role that I'm doing, and I need an actor that has emotional accessibility or the ability to to go to a deeper part of themselves. Well, I need to see that in the audition. Because if I don't see it in the audition, I can't necessarily trust that the actor will get there when we're shooting the film. So that's what I look for uh, there as well. So all of this kind of comes down to something called the psychology of the audition, because there's so much. As I said, right, today I'm going over the very uh, surface level basics of an audition. In other sessions, I'll kind of break down some other aspects and go a little deeper. But this is just the very surface level because there's so much. It's expansive how much is included in an audition process. But it comes down to psychology, and more specifically, the psychology of the audition, meaning as the actor, what are some things that get in our way that maybe we can work on that can help us in the audition process? So, the first one we like to talk about is something called your focus. Where is your when you're going to an audition? Where is your focus? And many times we'll get trapped in what we call inward focus or self-consciousness. We'll get trapped in the worry and anxiety about going to the audition and about, oh, what if I'm not good enough, or what if I don't get the part, or what if, but focused internally. And so one of the things that you can consciously make yourself aware of is, okay, let me turn my focus outward. Instead of worrying at all whether I get the part or not, what if I focused on what I could do in this life? What if I focused on my partner in the scene? What if I could focus on the room, doing something positive for the room, coming in and getting the room excited, meaning the casting director, the other actor, the whoever else is in the room. But putting my focus outward instead of what am I getting, what can I give? And doing it that way. And that's also where we can learn how to shift our energy, right? Shift our energy, because sometimes we have nervous energy, which pulls our focus inward because it's an energy of take, right? I'm trying to take to make myself safe, to keep myself safe. And instead, take a deep breath, right? Breathing is a big part of this whole process. So you can take a deep calming breath, which means through your nose to calm everything down, right? In through your nose, out through your mouth. That helps us calm down. We do that before we go into the audition room. And we remind ourselves, what can I give? And let's change the energy, change our focus outward into one of giving. What can I give to the audition today? And I say that, and it's a big deal because as a casting director and a director, when I'm casting a project, I'm very anxious about it. And I'm anxious about it because so much is at stake for this project. I need to find, the actors that fit, or else I really don't have a viable project. So I'm very anxious through this whole process, and I'm hoping that every actor that walks into the room is the one that I need. So when you walk into the room, I am immediately on your side. I immediately, all right, you're the one for the part. So in other words, when you walk into the room, I'm already handing you the part until maybe you do something that it might pull away. But it's like I'm hoping that you're it, that you're what the project needs. Now, not to say if you're not what the project needs, there's no that's not a negative comment on you or your acting or anything else. It just might not be a good fit. But just know the casting directors are on your side. So know that, well, casting directors are anxious. They're nervous when you're walking in the room. I know we as the actor are like, oh no, we're the ones that are nervous. Trust me when I say the casting directors and directors, they are nervous too. So if you walk in with a giving attitude, like, here, I'm here to put you at ease. I'm here to make your day. I'm here to make you more comfortable. And it's outward focus to the room around you, and then ultimately your partner in the scene. You shift your focus, you shift your energy, and it will help you. It will help put you at a greater ease in that room. part of this whole thing is learning how to deal with fear and anxiety. Anxiety is the feeling of fear. So anytime we are faced with some sort of fear, we have this feeling of anxiety. And our anxiety is not a negative thing. I talk about this in one of my other sessions. Anxiety is not a negative thing, it's actually a positive thing. But we have to learn how to use it. And we have to learn how to channel it into our work and dealing with fear, because that's what's going to keep us inward focused and keep our energy over here. So we learn how to work with fear, we learn the psychology of it, and then we can learn how to shift that outward. And then we can do things that is also important, like committing to the choices that we make. So outside of the room, we had some time to look over the scene. We're deciding things like, what is the relationship that I have in the scene? What am I fighting for in the scene? How do I feel about certain things in the scene? So I'm making some different choices. And then when I go into the room, if I can have that outward focus, I can now commit to those choices, which will feel amazing as an actor, to really step into those choices that I've made. And understanding that there's absolutely no right and no wrong to the process. It's just there's no right and no wrong to creativity. It's only your creativity in the present moment. So that's really where it's at. And sometimes as actors, we feel, in other words, like we have to pick I'm going to put in quotes, like the right choice for this part, and there is no right choice. As a casting director and as a director, I can tell you when an actor walks into the room, I don't know what I'm looking for. And that's the truth. As a director, we don't know what we're looking for. We have ideas, but we really don't know who the character is yet. The character is somebody on the page for a very long time in the process. And until an actor walks into the room and presents the character to us, we don't know who the character is. So when you walk into the room, there's no right or wrong choices because we don't know who this is either. We're waiting for you to present the character to us, and then for us to sit back and either say, yes, that works, or maybe no, it doesn't. Either way, it's okay. But it's important that you don't get stuck into the fear of trying to guess if am I making the right choice. There is no right choice. There's not a right and there's not a wrong choice. There's only your creativity that you have to come in and present. This is what I have to offer. And then we see if it fits. And that's it. And then the other thing in the audition, and it's part of the psychology of it, is keep going no matter what. Don't allow fear to stop the audition at any moment. If something goes wrong, typically meaning you skip a line or you stutter on a line or you lose your place in the script, just take a breath, find your place, and keep going. Don't all of a sudden say, oh, I have to stop and and start it again. Just keep doing it. So, and believe it or not, as a director, when I have an actor that stumbles but keeps going, I love that. I absolutely love that, because that shows me you have the ability to recover and stumble, and you're not gonna stop performing or living the life just because something you think didn't go just the way you wanted it to. So, and that's a very important piece of the puzzle. So there's so many different aspects of auditioning. As I said, today is an introductory session on it, and I'm going to have future sessions where I go into depth on different aspects, from theater to film to callbacks to different things. There's so much that we can discuss, and that will be up and coming. But I have some questions that were submitted that I do want to get to that have to do with auditioning as well. And so this will help us continue talking about it. So for the first one is, what can help an actor stand out in an audition? Many things, but let me see if I can just pull a couple of them together. First is, as I said, walk into the room with an outward focused energy. An outward focused energy will display a form of confidence. Now, I'm not interested in an actor trying to show me that they're confident, or trying to be overconfident, but rather just walking in comfortable, ready to be in a giving state of mind, a giving energy. Because it's a collaborative process. You're coming into the room, and me as the director or casting director, I'm going to work with you, and we're going to see if we can create something together. And so I'm very willing, as you're walking in, as the casting director, I'm ready to collaborate. I'm ready to go. So now I want to see, can you be that other half of this thing so we can collaborate together? And so by walking in with that giving energy is important. The other thing is to really listen. Listening is the key. And by listening, there's a couple different stages of that. Listening first to whatever the casting director is saying. So if the casting director is giving you instructions, initial instructions, please listen to that. If the casting director is giving you an adjustment, let's say you run the scene once, and they say, okay, let's do it again, but this time let's do this, then make sure that you're listening to that. But just make sure you're listening. And then thirdly, and most importantly, listen to your partner. Meaning we have a scene, right? And let's say I have a piece of paper, which is the side, and I have my scene on it. Well, many actors they'll pick up their words, and then they'll say it to their partner. But then the moment they're done speaking and their partner speaks back to them, they go back down to their script, meaning they're reading their script as their partner is speaking. Well, what that ends up doing is it cuts off the ability for us to really listen. And what's important is that in an audition, I come up and I say my line, I then stay there, right? I have to land my line. And then I need to see how are they taking that? I just said this to them. What's their reaction? How are they responding? How are they feeling about that? And then I listen to what they say back to me. And then I have a reaction to that, right? I have to take that in. Okay, they just said this back to me. How are they being with me? How are they responding to me? And then I can take that, have a reaction, and then I can go down to the page and get my next words. That's the process. It's listening when the other person is speaking. But it's extremely difficult. It's extremely difficult because the anxiety takes over, the anxiety of, oh my God, I need to pick up the next words. I need to get that down to the script because otherwise I'm going to miss my turn to speak. And so we get filled with this anxiety and we rush back down to the page. Well, something that helps an actor stand out is the ability to relax and listen, to stay connected in with the actor when they're speaking, and then going down to the page only after your reader says what they need to say. You take that in, then go down to the page. So listening is one of the keys to auditioning. It's one of the keys to acting, but it's definitely one of the keys to auditioning, and will definitely help you stand out in that. So this comes up, and I get this question throughout. I mean, all of my different sessions that I do. And how can I show emotions when I act? And another one I got was, are emotions important in an audition? And so the word that's standing out to me here is show. How can I show emotions when I act? And here's the big thing. We don't show emotions. Our acting is not about the emotion. Now, acting, just like living, is an emotional event, meaning it's a feeling level event. That's down inside of us. It's not up here in our head. It's down here in our core. But Our job is to not emote. Our job is to have ourselves in some sort of action, emotional action outward, meaning I need to be fighting for something authentically and truthfully that may, as a result, cause me to feel something. The goal of all of our acting is this thing called truth. We need to be truthful in our acting. And if we're truthful, if we're truthful when we speak, if we're truthful when we respond, if we're truthful in the working off of our environment and our partners, if we're truthful, then everything that's happening will work. Our performance will work for the audience or for the casting director. But if I try to force emotion or show emotion, it will come across as false. And false acting is evident, and it disconnects the audience from us. So we never want to show emotion. Now, how do we use emotion when we act? Well, that's a very long process, and I'll probably do a session just on emotions in acting. But it's, as actors, what I can say is the things like when you see actors that have emotion, those emotions are genuine. They're authentic. It's not a trick that we do. When I'm acting and you see me as being sad in a moment, I'm authentically and truthfully sad in that moment. I'm really feeling those things. Now, we have a safe process. We have an imaginary process that helps lead us there. We use our imagination to put us in environments and events that help us uh, capture that state of being. But it is still authentic. Whether we arrive there in our real life genuinely or in our imaginary life in our acting, the feeling of the emotions are the same, and that's what an audience connects into is the genuineness and authenticity of that emotion. And so as you're acting, right, and early on, if you don't have the tools yet of stepping deep into the emotion, don't worry about it. Your goal right now, whatever emotional state that you have, is to speak the words as truthfully as you can, to really speak these. That is so much better especially in an audition. If I have two actors, if I have one actor that is showing me all of these great emotions, but it's false because they're pushing it and they're manipulating it, and then another actor that is simply speaking truthful, but very almost calmly, but speaking truthful, I'm always going to lean towards the truthful actor because it's genuine, it's authentic, and that is what an audience will connect into. But I will keep your eyes open for a session that I'll do on stepping into a emotional life, and I'll cover that in detail at a later time. How do you let go of being nervous? Oof. We ultimately we don't. Um, but I understand the question, and so let me see if I can rephrase it a little bit. Well, when I say we don't, nervousness is not a bad thing. It's anxiety. Anxiety tells us that we are in a state of perceived danger. Now, it's not real danger, it's perceived danger. And anytime we're going to perform in front of others, it's a perceived danger. It's a risk, it's a vulnerability that we're going to do. So we're going to feel anxious when we do it. We're going to feel nervous. In the beginning, as we're starting to act, the nervousness can be very overwhelming because it creates uh, an instinct in us that's called fight or flight. It's the fight or flight instinct, meaning that we have a choice when we have this rush of anxiety. We're either going to fight through it and keep working toward what we're trying to do, or we're going to run from it. We have to stand up and fight, or we have to run the other way. It gives us those two choices. That's what the anxiety is for. Anxiety is a heightened state of awareness. It's a rush of adrenaline. our senses are heightened. And in those moments, it can sometimes feel, if we have a negative perception on it, it can feel like, oh, we need to run the other way. And that's where I think we're talking about nervousness, is like, oh, I don't like this feeling. Well, as an actor, and really as in all of the art forms, we learn how to channel that into our work. We use it. Yeah, just like, exactly like what John said. We use it. And so it's something that we learn how to do. So we take that natural anxiety that we have, and the secret is that our characters are also going through something anxious. Our stories are about anxious moments. And so we take it and we learn how to channel it, and we don't try to push it away. We don't try to stifle it. We don't try to get rid of it. Instead, we take it and we put it right into the work. We put it right into what's happening in this scene, what's happening in this moment. And then that helps us through the whole process. But we learn as an actor that our anxiety is actually a positive thing, because it keeps us grounded in this moment. It keeps everything that we're doing important. It keeps us fighting harder. It keeps our energy up. That's all from this thing called anxiety. How can I set up an audition space in my own home? Okay, so I mentioned earlier that self-taping is, or even online video, is becoming more popular. So how do you set this up? Well, online video, you just need, just like I have here, you need, a computer, you need a webcam. Now, you should have some different lights. I have a couple lights around me, and you want a good microphone set, whether you use a headset or whether you have a microphone. You want to be heard clearly, and you want to look presentable. That's really what that is, and that's what we use some different lights for. And when I mean lights, you can use some lamps, but you just want to have light that is coming at you from the front, mostly, where it's going to light you up. Instead of having overhead light, which will cause some very weird shadows, we want light coming at you from the front. You can use very simple lamps for that. Now, to record an audition, though, you'll need, now you can record an audition on a phone. That's perfectly okay. Um, the thing to do is you want to make sure your phone is what's called landscape, which means sideways, right? This is called portrait, which is up and down. So you would record it sideways. You'd want to do that. You'd want to get a tripod or something to hold your phone that you can put it, away from you. And just like I was saying, we need lights. We need lights lighting us from the front so you can be clearly seen. And then behind you, you would put some sort of curtain or a sheet or maybe even a solid wall, but you would want maybe a solid color, and usually like a blue or a gray type of color behind you, but a nice solid color. Because even like what I have here, for an audition, it tends to be a little too busy. All the books back here on the bookshelf and all the different colors, a little too much going on. For this format, it's fine. But for an audition, I want my background to be a solid color. And that will allow the focus to be on me and my performance for the audition. So you can set that up in any space that you have. I have students that love to just, they have a wall. You can paint the wall a color if you want to, or you can just use a solid wall. Or I have other students that just like they tack up a sheet, like an actual like bed sheet, to a wall when they're ready to go. I have other students that use curtains, and they'll hang curtains, and they'll have just, a small space of that they'll stand in front of. As far as lights, you can buy lights online, or you can, if you don't have a large budget, you can go to a thrift store or a place like Goodwill, and you can just get lamps, just old style lamps that have light bulbs in them that you have a shade on top, and you just put those lamps right in front of you on either side, out of the view of the camera, but either side, and that will provide light coming at you. And that will evenly light your face and make you presentable and seen to the camera. And that's the easiest way to do that without getting complicated into into like a higher level of film production. Use what is accessible to you. Use the technology. You don't need to buy complicated cameras or gear. Use what you have, and you can make that work. How can I start an acting career while working full time? Hmm. So many of my students that I work with, when they're starting the process with me, they're possibly already in their careers, right? They already have jobs that they're working in. Some have been established. My older actors have been established in a career for a long time, but they have a work schedule. They have kind of a process that they go through. They have a way to pay bills, and they're like, "But I really want to act. How do I jump from one to the next?" So the answer is we do not jump from one to the next. We have to slowly move. We transition from one to the next. And depending on the type of job you have, I'll work with actors in different ways. So, for example, if you're somebody that has more of a flexible job, if you have a job that will work with your schedule, then you stay with it. You stay with that job as you're beginning to train as an actor, and you start going on auditions and doing small projects. Typically, a job can work around that. If you have an inflexible job, then you may need to get a new job, like replace the job that you have, but with one that is more flexible. Some actors will replace a single job with two part-time jobs. Like you're replacing a full-time job that's kind of a Monday through Friday 9 to 5 with two part-time jobs that are more flexible, maybe in the hospitality or food industry, something that or entertainment industry, so something that is more um, uh, it's more flexible in their schedules. So there's things that we have to do to kind of transition, but I never suggest like quitting everything you're doing now just to go into acting. Acting is more of a long-term process. There's much training that you have to do first. And then once you start getting training and once you start working on smaller projects, meaning student films, independent films, community theater, smaller type projects, and all of those, the great thing, student film, independent film, community theater, those three will work around your schedule typically because these are areas where they're typically not paying or they're very low pay. So, because you're volunteering your time for the most part, they are very flexible to your current schedule. That's a great place to gain experience. And then once you gain enough experience, you build up a resume and you start looking for other things more professionally. That's when we'll have to take a look at and say, okay, well, maybe it's time to lose this full-time job, maybe retire from here and get something more flexible as you're now supplementing your income by working professionally, by maybe doing smaller roles on television or commercials or other type of work that you're going to gain money from. So maybe we can downgrade from a full-time job here to a part-time and then also gain some income over here. And then slowly we want to replace all of our old income with acting income. So we kind of transition to that over a longer period of time. But right away, don't change anything you're currently doing. Just take a class. Start taking a class. And when you start training, that opens up so much more information to you. Once you start learning how the industry works and what you need to do, uh, that's probably the first step. One more question. Someone had asked, which movie best portrays my life? Uh, it's a fun question. So the movie that best portrays my journey that I've taken in life, if I look at it that way, uh, I would say it's one of my favorite movies, which is The Matrix, the original 1999 The Matrix. And the reason why is the story of The Matrix is very symbolic and metaphorical to a lot of different things. But one of the things I've always liked uh, the metaphor to is the journey of the artist. ultimately it's the journey of someone trying to discover who they truly are on the inside after being told on the outside from other people who they're supposed to be. So, as an artist, and you're going through life and you're being told we're supposed to fit into certain things in society, you're supposed to be this, you're supposed to be that, this is what you have to do for money, this is what you have to, all of this type of stuff. And then as an artist, the journey is from the inside. It's like, no, I feel I need to be doing something else. It's learning how to trust those instincts, it's learning how to trust yourself, and it's learning to define from the inside out and discover who you truly are and then become that. And I love that. I love that as the journey of the artist. And for me, the movie The Matrix clearly defines that. Starting to trust yourself, starting to believe, starting to know your own path, and that's really what that movie's, you know, it kind of defines. And I've always loved that. So that's what I would I would say. So, well, thank you, everyone. This talking about auditioning, it goes by. There's so much to talk about. It goes by so quick. But thank you for spending the time with me, and we'll be back. And as I said, in future sessions, I'll go into maybe some more details of the different parts of the audition process and other things too. If you have anything that you like, specific topics you'd like me to cover, please reach out. You can go to our website and use one of the contact forms and just reach out and let me know and say, hey, I'd love for you to do a session on this, or I'd love for you to do a session on that. That's a great way to do it. Also, for our upcoming sessions, if you register, you can also submit a question as part of your registration, and I do my best to try to answer um, as much as I can in the next session. Okay, so, but until then, you can reach out to us right here. We have our email, info@truthfulacting.com, or feel free to call or text us at this number, and if any questions that you may have, and we'll do our best to answer those for you. But thanks once again for taking your time and spending it with me, and I look forward to seeing you next time.